Hello and welcome to I guess we'll call it like a jam session
Yeah, just
podcast.
spitballing.
We just came back from seeing It Part 2. I think it's called It Chapter 2.
It's called it Chapter 2, but whatever.
Yuda, why don't you tell us about your fascination with scary stuff?
I really don't know how to answer that question because it's weird. I don't, I can only tell you what I think my fascination with scary stuff is. I can't actually tell you what it is. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm drawn to it and I don't know why, but I can guess.
Are you drawn to it because it's uber creative and you have to be very creative in order for something scary to be actually good?
There's definitely, I've thought about that, as a challenge more than as my aspiration. I would say that it has more to do with being in a dark place, and I don't know. Actually, I really don't know. I mean, the thing is, I'm trying to answer the question. It's a question that I've been struggling with for a while. I have a couple of ideas. One of them is if you've gone through some heavy duty stuff, watching scary stuff is a way to cope.
Okay, so I can't really understand that because I'm not a huge fan of scary stuff.
Yeah.
I do like some scary movies, like the John Woo ones. Like Insidious, The Conjuring. Those were good movies. I thought it was good. I thought it was funny. I didn't think it was as scary as you thought it was. But there is some kind of creativity to it because most scary movies are not good.
Yeah, that's something that really bugs me about scary movies. And I think the reason why most scary movies are not good is because they don't fundamentally understand the place it's coming from. Like most scary movies, the bad guy wins, just as an example, right? The thing is, that's not the point of a scary, and that's not the point of a story. Forget scary movie, right? If your characters don't change at the end of a story, it's not a good story. And so if your characters all die at the end of a story, it's not a good story. So it's got this inherent, I don't know what you call it. It's a catch-22.
Well, I think what the idea behind scary movies is that they want people to feel like they're not alone. Like there are a lot of scary movies where everybody dies, and the demon or whatever the hell.
Those are the good ones. The good ones are the ones that make you feel like you're not alone.
I mean, yes, but they're not always good.
Okay.
Like I've seen some scary movies. I can't even think of the names of them, but I've seen some scary movies that are like they're really stupid.
Right.
Everybody dies.
Yeah.
And in the end, the demon's still around.
Yeah.
And everyone's dead, and you're just like, well,
okay,
nothing happened. Everyone died, and he'll haunt another group of friends.
Right. The idea behind that is that you're supposed to walk out creeped out and not know what to do with yourself. The problem with that is it really gives you no reason to invest in watching a scary movie because you're like, oh, there's no closure.
Right. So I will tell you one thing. One movie that did scare the crap out of me. It didn't really scare me, but it made me feel like I wasn't alone, and that made me very unsettled, was Paranormal Activity.
I never saw it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. It's an okay movie.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's very creative. But I watched it and I was like, oh God, I don't want to go to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing is, I guess the reason I never wanted to see it is because paranormal activity is something I believe in, but on a very like pedestrian level. Like I don't want to really think about it all that hard.
I dig.
And one of the reasons I don't want to think about it that hard is because there's really nothing to learn from it as a horror genre, in my opinion. Because like we all know, there are things that happen we don't understand. So like the only way to sort of understand that is to make a ghost flick. But the problem is, I think that that paranormal activity is inherently so subjective that it's like you can't really learn from someone else's conceptualization of it.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
I think so. I mean, maybe. But with you being the master storyteller that you are, yeah, thanks for that.
I don't know about that. Anyway.
Okay. What do you think makes a good scary movie?
So this is something that I've been contemplating for a really long time, and I'm like trying to find the answer to it more than I have the answer to it. I think that what a scary story is sort of connecting with the bizarre part of your subconscious. Meaning that there are these parts of us that we don't like about ourselves.
Ooh, okay, I like where this is going.
And you suppress them so much that
they scare you.
They scare the living daylights out of you. And the idea behind a scary movie, I heard something really interesting once. Every monster is an incarnation of a like inherent social problem, right? Vampires are like soulless people who are not of God, right? Because it's really like high philosophy stuff, but the idea basically is a vampire, well, a lot of monsters are soulless, but a vampire is a human that is soulless. And Dracula is actually about the suffering of the vampire. It's not really about the victims. So if you look at the era which vampires sprung up and the Dracula story sprung up from, excuse me.
It's like the 1700s.
Yeah, it's basically the height of the atheist revolution. Nietzsche, philosophers before Nietzsche, the French Revolution, all of this stuff is sort of pushing us into the direction of nihilism. So this is the vampire represents a soul without a purpose, or a soulless person, right? And when you believe in nihilism, you run out of reasons. So that's the idea behind the vampire.
Very good.
So
the idea. So basically, what you're saying is, in layman terms, that scary movies serve as a purpose to us because they give us a way to be afraid of something in order to understand that what we're actually afraid of are our inner demons.
They're supposed to represent our inner demons.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. So no, what it is every monster, like the thing that I can't stand about Stephen King as an author is that he doesn't flesh out his monsters enough for them to be representative of something. And it is an exception to that, and it's one of his best creations because he fleshes it out. So, a monster is supposed to be a representative of an issue, and it is, and the way that it portrays that sort of like inner demon is supposed to be spot on. which is something that I've been like trying to figure out for a long time.
I mean, I think everyone's trying to figure that stuff out. But I like how you're going with that, because we all have inner demons. Some of us are facing them, and some of us are avoiding them. And the more we avoid them, the harder it is to face them.
Right.
And scary movies kind of bring that out of us. People like to be scared when it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, there's. Well, I mean, that's the idea of a story, generally speaking. You are always put in the shoes of the protagonist when you're reading or watching a story unfold, right? And it's supposed to be like, so there's this thing, okay, where if someone has a irrational fear, the way that you get them to overcome their irrational fear is by exposing them voluntarily to the fear at their sort of comfort level, right? So like if someone's afraid of needles, you go, I'm going to uncap this needle in the same room as you, for instance, right? And you go, is that okay?
A Jordan Peterson thing.
Yeah, this is Jordan Peterson. And he goes, and the person giving the therapy is supposed to go, is that okay? And you tell me when to put it away, right? So the person, you take the needle, you expose it, and the person tells you to put it away. You don't betray their trust, you put it away immediately, right? That's what a story is, right? It's something that is definitely like not part of you, but that you can relate to, right? And the idea is to expose yourself enough to these things that stop you from becoming who you want to be, or self-actualizing, or whatever you want to call it. These things are supposed to help you stop yourself from giving in to those fears, right? Go, oh, if that person can do it on the screen, why can't I do it? He's in so much more of a desperate situation than I am.
Dire.
Which is why like a hi-fi like high action Mission Impossible stuff doesn't really draw a high audience, because it destroys your suspension of disbelief so quickly that you just don't care. You're like, oh, this isn't real. It doesn't feel real to me. I can't relate to this.
I disagree.
Okay, give it to me. Because I really enjoy Mission Impossible, but it's really hard for me to like.
I think a lot of people identify with stuff like that, even though a lot of the stuff is very unrealistic.
Okay.
There's the hero aspect, the
Sure.
lone hero of the story, and that's a big one.
So you're saying it's more of a grand metaphor than it is a specific metaphor.
Yeah, but that's also, mind you, that's an American thing. American thing is the me against the world. Lone
impossible
hero.
Odds.
Yeah, impossible odds.
Because everyone feels like they're being subjected to impossible odds.
Right.
That's an interesting take. I like that.
Like, I love those movies. As unrealistic as they are, I love those movies because I see myself in those movies.
Huh. No, I dig it. That's actually really interesting. I like that.
Like, in China, you know, the movies are, if we all work together, we'll defeat the monster. Godzilla, right?
Communism.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. That's a really cool point.
So I disagree with you.
Communism or nationalism. I actually heard something really interesting. Last night I was listening to a podcast or watching a video or something, and someone said that the extremes of both the right and the left are joined at the hip. Right? Communism is based on group collaboration, and
Correct.
So is fascism.
Yep.
So that's a really interesting, like, little factotum.
Mm-hmm.
Little just, yeah.
That's why Soviet Russia, it's the what's the name of that tool?
The hammer and the sickle.
That's right.
Okay.
The hammer builds and the sickle gathers food. We work together.
Yeah.
And it's joined
it's
in
like
a circle.
The two extremes of you have agrarian culture plus what's it called? Plus metropolitan culture.
There you go.
That's what it is. That's really, really interesting. I never actually gave any thought to the communist
That's why when
flag.
you look at Russian music, it's very collaborative. It's not one person.
Russian sports.
No, but listen. It's
I
it's very collaborative. There's not one person singing. They're all singing and they're all dancing in unison, and it's very operatic and coordinated.
Yeah.
The idea is to show
Like the Nutcracker, for instance.
yeah. And the idea is to show the extreme intensity of if we work together, we can conquer the world.
That's why Dostoevsky is so interesting.
That's why he's so intense.
Yeah.
It's also why he understands personalities, because I mean, I don't know if you know a lot of Russians. I know a lot of Russians.
Yeah, I don't.
Russians are incredibly talented, incredibly intense. They are amazing at almost everything they do.
Right.
You know, they pick an expertise and they're pretty damn good at it.
You know, that's very true. Yeah.
And the thing is it's because the reason why Dostoevsky understands psychological personalities is because he sees the extremes
Yeah.
of each personality because he lives in Russia.
Right.
Like Vladimir Putin, right?
Yeah.
He's the most powerful man in the world, guaranteed. He has a picture
Do you
of
really
him.
think so?
Oh, absolutely. He has a picture of him on a horse with his shirt off. He's like, I am the ruler of the world. I'm the ruler of I'm the ruler of Russia. I'm sitting on a horse and my shirt's off. I'm a man. You know what I mean? That's what it is. He's showing
for sure.
He's showing in the most flamboyantly manly, not flamboyant, but the most masculine way possible that he is the leader.
That's kind of sort of what Donald Trump does.
It's a little different.
I mean, obviously, but like it's the same sort of mentality.
Yeah, but Donald Trump has that.
It's like hubris.
Not to make this political because I don't like politics, but
Yeah.
Donald Trump has that Tom Cruise Mission Impossible thing going.
Mm.
Everyone's out to get him, and he's
just going for it.
exactly.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I hear that.
So here's my next question. We were talking about inner demons and how scary movies bring that out of us. You know, now that you understand the difference between communist filmmaking, or not communist filmmaking, but filmmaking,
Storytelling, analysis,
Yeah.
whatever.
analysis and all that stuff, and that Americans they're all about me conquering my own stuff, like me against the world.
Yeah.
What are you conquering
Me.
personally?
Oh God. I have a sort of. I have difficulty with organization for sure.
Oh, I was talking about an inner demon, but that works.
I mean, that is an inner
technically
demon.
it is
That's
an
a
inner
huge
demon. If you
demon
can't
of mine.
organize, if
Like-
you can't organize outwardly, you can't organize inward.
Yeah, like how many times do I tell you, like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this,
And you
we're
never
gonna
do
this. You're like, we don't have time for all that. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, we only have time if we do it the way I say we do it,
Yeah.
because you're not organized.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I love it. Like sometimes you'd be like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. Let's do this first. I was like, wait a second. No, I'm not doing a zigzag day.
Yeah. The way that I do it is not like organized. I do, okay, the most important thing to me first. And then we're going to go drive across town and do the second most important thing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
See, that's the key right there.
That's yeah, for sure. The thing is like, oh, how do we get this done the fastest? But I'm just like, but what if we run out of time?
Yeah, see, if you're worrying about the extreme negative outcome, you're not going to get anything done.
Right. And that's been my experience.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I might be incredibly organized and clean and so on and so forth, but you know, part of this battle of what we're doing,
It's the middle road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
entrepreneurial speaking, nothing's for sure. Everything's kind of up in the air. You look at other people and you feel like life is going by.
Yeah.
But in reality, people are watching you and they feel like life is going by them.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
it's weird because you think to yourself, like, this is a situation where you're in where you're like, what the hell am I doing? Like,
Right.
what are we doing? And then you say, okay, well, I'm going to stop doing this and I'm going to do something normal. And then you're kind of like, but I can't stop doing it. Like, if I really wanted to, I could.
Well,
You
yeah.
lose me?
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like the things we worry about, the things we worry about most are the things that we have the most trouble with.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is that if you're worrying about it, you're already halfway there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of like the idea is, hey, stop worrying, you know.
Yeah, I think it's very funny because I watched this movie called The Secret, and my brother's like, "It's BS, it's stupid, right?"
It's just that the
no,
production
Wait a
quality
second.
sucked.
Just
I
hear me
couldn't
out.
do it.
Oh, the production quality. Look at this kid. What do you think?
It was just like, it was so cheesy.
This kid thinks he's Tintin Quarantino.
No, it was just really cheesy.
Anyhow, the point
It
is,
was built like an info.
okay. Calm down.
I hated
Take
it.
a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. Jeez,
Okay.
he went wacko on us.
He's
He's still going wacko.
Okay, but here's the thing. If it sounds like a late night you can edit that out, right?
I'm not going to.
No,
Go
you
ahead.
have to. We can't have that kind of
Okay.
stuff. It sounded like a late night like infomercial.
Yeah,
like,
I understand. But
This knife can cut shoots. Like, who's gonna ever cut a shoe?
okay, who cares? The point is that I was very into the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get it to work for me.
Yeah, I take it.
And as some may know, I have recently moved back to America from Israel after being away for a very long time, and the adjustment period is difficult. Getting used to being in a new country is difficult. Getting situated is difficult. Starting over is difficult. Getting used to being with my family is difficult. Needless to say, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I've been battling resistance, the war of art. I've been battling tremendous resistance
Yeah.
because, you know, of everything I just added and more. And now I'm hitting a point where I'm in a good stride. And things are just happening. And it's like, finally, the law of attraction is on my side. And the funny thing is that if I ask myself,
No, I mean, no, I totally get the law of attraction. I just don't relate to it that way.
I understand.
Okay.
Please,
That's my bad.
please unbuzz your,
Silence
buzz your
your
phone.
cell phones.
Yeah.
My bad.
But I'm finally on the side where the law of attraction is starting to kick in. And the funny thing is that if you were to ask me to explain to you how to be on the right side of the law of attraction, I can't tell you.
Okay, so I mean, I can tell you.
Meaning, I can tell you, but it
Well-
won't do you any justice.
It won't do you any good. Is what?
Yeah, meaning
Yeah.
we're all different. We're all on a different journey.
We have to. The thing is, you have to be able to relate it to somebody on a way they can relate to it, like everything else, right? And I think like this relates for me, and maybe it doesn't for you, but you can tell me.
Okay.
If you are obsessing about one thing, like for instance, what do you want out of your life?
I want abundance of experience. I want to be happy. I want to fulfill my fullest potential.
Okay, so if those are the things you're worried about, don't you think you're going to spend as much energy as you can pursuing those things?
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're confused and you're scared and you are dealing with a lot on your plate,
so that is a question of being conflicted. If you're conflicted, nothing gets done.
true. But everyone's conflicted because that grace period between
But
child.
what are they conflicted about? That's the thing. Are they conflicted about? Okay. Are they conflicted about whether or not they want to experience something, or are they conflicted about whether or not they're going to get to? It's like, is this going to happen or not? That's the confliction, right?
Yes, but the thing is, what we're talking about is everybody gets conflicted at some point. It has to do with the awkward stage between adolescence and adulthood.
What are we at here? 24 minutes. Do you want me to pause it, or are you just going to edit this out?
You can pause it.
How do you pause it? Just press the red button?
Yeah, I guess you could.
And you're just going to, like, splice them together?
Yeah.
We're eating, too.
Okay, fine. Just had to take a quick intermission, or as they say in hockey, I had to get my skate fixed. So you were saying?
I was really worried about that. What, did you not hear what I said?
Just say it again.
Okay. So, okay. You're going to splice them together anyway, but here we go again. Basically, your main concern when you're conflicted is whether or not it's actually going to happen. But the thing is, once you let go of that confliction,
It will happen.
you're going to do everything in your power to make it happen.
Yes, I agree with you.
So that's the law of attraction. It's the same thing.
Right,
It's
but
just more, in my personal opinion, like the law of attraction is too, like, abstract for me.
I hear what you're saying. What you're saying was great and very simple. However, what I'm talking about is what I'm talking about is the confusing, difficult stage of, oh, this is what I want to do, and it's so hard, and it has to do with our upbringings. It has to do with the people that we've been exposed to since we were children, where you have to work through that stuff. Like, you, like, for example, when I think of things that I want to do, I think of how I wanted to do those things, and that people that said they wanted to do X, Y, and Z never got to achieve those things. That's what I'm talking about. That's what being on the wrong side of the law of attraction is. You have to get over that hump before it starts to work for you.
For sure. And to bring it back full circle, what I loved about this movie, unlike other horror movies, is that it brought it back. Like most horror movies, you have victims, right? And the thing is, a good horror story needs victims, because if the stakes aren't real, nobody's interested. What I think I'm drawn to about horror is the stakes are higher than ever. Right? It's life or death.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only life or death. It's life or death on an extreme supernatural level, right? What makes a monster so difficult is that there's no easy way to kill a monster, right?
Actually, you know what I loved about this movie? The whole movie was about mind games.
Right.
The monster is haunting them because it's making them afraid.
Right.
Like, there's the fat kid.
What makes it such a relatable monster is that
Right.
the core of every monster is that it preys on fear.
It's resistance.
Yeah.
That's why the book is so damn good.
That's why. And this is why it's arguably the best it is arguably the best Stephen King novel. The problem with it is, just like every other Stephen King novel,
Or the crappy ending.
it's not listen, it's an entertaining ending, but it doesn't make you feel complete. And any good book should make you feel like you finished a journey, and it does not make you feel that way. Nothing's tied up. Okay? The thing that really bugs probably everybody about Stephen King novels is, at the end of a Stephen King novel, whatever the conflict is just explodes. In Stand, there's a nuclear bomb that explodes, and that's the end of the conflict. In It, Derry is hit by a hurricane. In The Shining, the hotel blows up, and it's just stupid, because it's like,
It's lazy writing.
It doesn't solve the inherent conflict. It just blows up the scenery. It's like
Maybe
if you solved your inherent conflict by jumping off a building, that would be the same. Like, it's the same metaphorical translation. It's stupid.
maybe maybe Stephen King is telling us something.
I read his book on writing, and his answer was that he just decides to end books.
You know what? I have respect for him.
He's a professional. He writes. He puts out
He's like
3 or 4 books a year.
Listen, here's the story. What do you need an ending for? Happy endings? Get the hell out of here. Go watch Disney.
Like, I mean, listen. I understand his process. His process is basically finding an ending is resistance. In
Actually,
my opinion, that's wrong.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have the capabilities, and you've said this before, of being a very good writer. But
Yes, my opinion.
I'm a lazy writer. I can write really well, but I hate ending it.
Everybody does.
Oh, really?
The most difficult part of writing anything is bringing it back to your original argument. The thing is, if you bring it back to your original argument, you make sense. If you don't make sense. It's cognitive dissonance.
It's like science.
Yeah.
There's a hypothesis,
Right.
there's an experiment, and then there's the
The
conclusion.
experiment proves the hypothesis.
Right.
If the experiment doesn't prove the hypothesis, what have you done?
So
A
I'm
failed
just-
experiment.
So I'm just being lazy.
Right.
Like, for example, I started writing a blog post about a movie that I really enjoy. It's called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And I really connect with it. Because basically it's talking about a guy who was a dreamer when he was a kid. He was like a skater, he had a mohawk, the whole deal. And then, instead of becoming that dreamer, he listens to... I mean, I'm only assuming this, but he listens to what the people who have done life before him say.
Well, obviously, that's what happens.
Yeah, they tell him...
You're,
They basically
you're making
told
a
him,
mistake.
It's like,
Get
you're making
real
a
job.
mistake. Don't
Yeah.
bark up that tree. Go get a normal job. So what does he do? He works for a company that vicariously has the
Right.
experiences that he wants. So
Right.
he lives vicariously through a photographer who is the best photographer in the world,
Right.
or whatever, the most rugged
Right.
photographer. He lives vicariously through him, and he works with him for like 13 years or whatever it is.
Right.
The magazine shuts down.
Is that
And-
what happens?
Yeah, the magazine is shutting down. It's the last issue, and the photographer gives him a gift. And he says, number 25 negative is going to be the cover or whatever. Thanks for all the good work or whatever it is.
Right.
And it sends him on this whole whirlwind of an experience story. And I was writing part of the blog.
And the thing about the story, this is the only part I remember, but in finding the photographer, he basically realizes that he can live that rugged life.
Yes, but there was an interesting part of it that I kind of connected with. He was on a online dating site, and there's a girl, a co-worker of his that he likes, and he wants to send her like a wink. It's like saying "I like you" or whatever. Like, it's a very subtle, flirtatious thing. And there's this point where first of all, throughout the movie, he's talking to this guy. It's on eHarmony, so he's talking to the representative of eHarmony because he can't send the wink, and the guy's trying to help him make a good profile, and he's basically had a boring-ass life. But there's this point where he's looking for this negative, this picture, because they can't find it. And he's asking this woman for help. And she has to go to the park to go see her son, who's a skateboarder. And he used to be a skateboarder. And she's on the phone, and he's like on the skateboard. He's showing the kid all the tricks that he knows. The kid's wowed. He's crazy. And I thought about it. I was like, oh, wow, that's why women are so important, because women bring the best of us, the best out of us.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, yeah, I guess that's what love is, right? You see the good in people and you embrace it as the thing that you want to attach yourself with.
The funny thing is that people think that they were doing what they're doing to get their significant others by impressing them.
Right.
But that's not what was happening.
What's happening
Is
is
that they
two
connect,
people who are exactly the same come together.
or not really that, but because sometimes opposites attract.
No, but opposites attract because, oh crap, that's what I want to do with my life.
Oh, that's interesting.
Live to my, and by the way, it doesn't have to be specific. It's just live to my fullest potential.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was interesting because basically I realized right then and there that it's not about impressing the person. It's that the person brings the best out of you. And the best out of you...
Hopefully.
The,
in a
but,
good relationship.
Yeah, of course. But the best out of you is the dreamer in you.
Right. But here's another important thing that I think we need to touch upon real quick. Everything is relative, right? So one person could be a hippie and then meet somebody who wishes they were a hippie. And that would be the best out of them in their like view of the world. But I mean, that's what we're talking about. There's no like, I wouldn't like, there is an objective best, but that's not important for this discussion.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because people that are in a good relationship with each other, when they first meet, they choose to be something. But they have to put the work in to keep that relationship going so they can live out every aspect of their persona, a.k.a. reaching their fullest potential.
Actually, here's another way of looking at it, actually.
And that's the hard part, by the way.
I'll say actually a third time just to wrap it up. But it says, or like there's this thing that rabbis used to tell me all the time, but they didn't seem to really believe it, which was that there's no bad sect of Judaism, right? It's a circle and we're all racing towards the middle. So some people may connect more.
That's interesting.
With one kind of way to sort of attach yourself to the truth. And obviously, the goal is to find the middle road, but you have to start somewhere, right? So the better your relationship is, theoretically, the closer you can get to that ultimate reality. Any thoughts? Think about it for a second.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But you see, that's the thing, is that if you spend the time... See, we're talking about law of attraction. We're talking about the confusing age. We're talking about the worry stage of our lives.
Mm.
The more time you spend, personally, the more time you spend worrying on your own about who you want to be and really contemplating it, and really working hard on understanding it, and really getting to know yourself better before jumping the gun with any kind of insecurity that people bestow on you, like getting married early.
Right.
I think that you know yourself well enough and you've adapted enough to then move on to that relationship stage, reach that potential area. But because you spent all this time getting to know yourself and humbling yourself, that's the time that you are able to have that relationship. Because if you jump the gun before you know yourself and you get into a relationship with someone and you want to do all these things and you make all these promises to each other and it never ends up happening, it's because you never got to know who you were.
Right. But the other thing is, like, that kind of growing can happen in a relationship too. It's just much harder because what needs to be on point is communication, and nobody communicates these days.
Yeah, people don't communicate properly.
If, like, for instance, if I had a wife who, and I wanted to go...
Bezras Hashem.
Bezras Hashem. If I had a wife, or when I have a wife, I still don't know everything about myself. That, like, I can't say positively that nothing is going to come up, and go, oh, you know what, I really want to do that. And that's important. Right? I can't say that. But, if I'm with somebody who knows how to have a normal discussion about something and doesn't say that's the end of it, right? Then we can come to an agreement, right? But obviously you have to work your ego in the whole situation. But like for instance, let's say you want to go traveling, but you have kids, right? You can't just go traveling. Yeah, they have to go to school, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Or, okay, that's fair. I'm not going to put myself in front of my kids. That's stupid, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I'll do some research and see if there's a way that it works.
So I'll tell you an interesting story that happened to me. I was sitting in a doctor's office with a girlfriend of mine. And it was in Israel.
Yeah, I remember.
And I saw a couple that were like Hasidish, like very Haredi, like super religious. And I was just talking while we were waiting for whatever, waiting for the doctor to call us in.
Yeah.
And I was just talking. I was telling her, I was like, I just want to live it. I want to experience life. I want to try to understand things and evolve as a person. And then I motioned towards that couple and I said, who knows, maybe towards, when I get older, I'll end up like them.
Right.
And it's not that I want to end up like them. It's
you
not
don't
that
know.
I'm interested in ending up like them. It's that I don't know.
Right.
And that I might end up like them because I might have some sort of a revelation.
Right.
She said, oh, God, I would never want that to happen. And let me be honest with you. I don't think so highly of the super Haredi, but if I lived a full...
But you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
That's it.
If I lived a full life, I can't say that I'm not going to be like that.
Right.
There might be a time that I will be like that.
Exactly.
And that should have been a telltale sign in the sense of saying...
I mean, the thing is, the problem with that as far as that was a red flag. It's like, oh yeah, maybe it was, or maybe you just didn't explain it properly.
I think I did, but it's
No,
possible.
But I mean, okay, so I read a book called Story Brand, I think. I mentioned this to someone else, but I named the wrong book. It's Story Brand, or How to Build, or Building a Story Brand, I think is what it's called. And in that book, there was a bunch of psychologists were analyzing a bunch of couples, and they figured out how to do a therapy session and figure out whether or not the marriage was going to last based on how the couple argued. If the couple argued by belittling the other person and trying to insult their way out of the discussion, the marriage would fail, for sure. And it was like a 90% accuracy rate, or 99%. It was insanely accurate, right? But if the couple argued, or just trying to work it out and trying to figure out what the right move was, without belittling each other and respectfully replying and stuff like that, then the marriage always worked. Didn't matter the background of the people, didn't matter the only thing that mattered was that they were actually interested in what the other person had to say. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, there is no, unless the person is off the wall, absolutely crazy, right? There's no such thing as and obviously the other thing is that it's a two-way street. If someone doesn't hear you, then it's over. But the other thing is that if two people are interested in communicating with each other, they can accomplish anything.
Absolutely. I think this was a very interesting and productive conversation.
Yeah, but I want to bring it back to the movie because that's where we started it.
Okay, fine.
So
we'll end it there.
Let's try and figure out how to bring that back.
So I'll put it to you this way. I got you. Okay. There's a point in the movie where there's this kid. He was fat when he was a kid, and then he worked on himself, and now he's a hottie.
Yeah. Not only that, but what happened when he was fat? What did he do?
He wrote a letter to the friend of theirs that was a girl. It was like a poem. It was kind of like a love letter situation. She had no idea who gave it to her. And
she assumed that it was somebody else.
She assumed it was someone else, right? And there's this point in the movie where they're trying to kill the clown. And they're stuck together. and they're in these impossible situations where they're basically drowning. And the whole thing about that is it's like a metaphor. You're drowning in your secrets, meaning you want to get it out, but you're too scared to get it out because you're afraid of rejection.
Right.
And it basically, they're being haunted and they're drowning, and he's being buried in like a earthquake sand situation, and she's in a bathroom stall and she's about to like drown in blood, and they start to scream to each other, they start to reach out to each other, and then the guy finally says, "I love you."
Right.
And then she hears him, and then she breaks down the door, and then she reaches for him, and he says, "I love you,"
and then he recites the poem. Yeah.
And then the whole vision goes away.
Yeah, it was an incredible scene in the movie.
And the thing is, what that shows is that we're afraid of being vulnerable because of the rejection that we face.
Yeah, it's like Eisenhower said. No, not Eisenhower. Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ.
Lyndon B. Johnson?
Yeah. He said, the only thing to fear is fear itself. Right? I mean, that's the only thing I remember from that speech, so don't ask me what the hell he was talking about. But
are you sure that wasn't Kennedy?
No, it wasn't Kennedy for sure.
Okay, fine.
It could have been someone else.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
No, he had a lot of good.
Yeah, he's a good speaker. He was a very good speaker.
But yeah, I think it was LBJ. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it was LBJ who said the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And whether or not applied to what the hell he was talking about, I don't know. I know he was talking about the Vietnam War. That's about it. But that's the point of the movie. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. If you are afraid of something, that's what's going to stop you from actually completing your mission. Now, the problem with LBJ's speech, if I had to guess, is that they didn't know how to fight guerrilla war. So, being afraid of fear is not exactly what it is. It's like, no, take a step back and realize that your strategy isn't working. So, yeah, the end.
Anyhow, I think I'm going to conclude this. This was a very productive and good conversation.
I'm actually surprised.
Dude, it's always a good conversation.
It is, yeah, for sure.
I would call this like the garage jam because we just freestyled it straight, which is awesome. But I'm going to conclude this by saying pay attention to what you expose yourself to because you might learn the strongest lesson from it.
For sure. The thing is, that's one of the most difficult things to do.
Stuff, man.
I know, but you just love opening doors. It's like, can't help it. It's one of the most difficult things.
The thing is, you don't understand how to close an episode. You close it by opening a door so you have more to talk about later for more episodes.
You're right. I'm being an idiot. Okay.
Anyhow, pay attention to what you expose yourself to because you might be able to learn the most valuable and strong lessons from it. Keep fighting. Fight resistance. Find your truest self. Get in touch with us. We want to hear your stories.
Yeah.
Peace.
If you think you have something to say.
Peace.
Peace.
Have a good one, buddies.
Not exactly.
Did you get it?
I still got it. Just go. Okay, go ahead.